Hi, Morgan, and welcome to the voice notes from the Organized Homeschool podcast. I am so excited to send voice notes back and forth and get to know you and more about your journey with homeschooling. So, can you kick things off with an introduction? You can share whatever feels good, maybe a little bit of context about you and your background, your homeschool, maybe how many children you homeschool, their ages, and possibly why you chose to homeschool, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, Erica. Thanks for having me. Yeah. So, a little bit about us. We are an Army family. My husband is a veterinarian in the United States Army, which means that we move roughly every 12 to 36 months, depending on the cycle and the year and where he's, progressing in his job. So, because of that, we homeschool. We likely would have homeschooled anyway, even if it wasn't a military thing, even if we weren't worried about military moves, because my husband was homeschooled K through 12 and his parents did a marvelous job with him and his siblings. So early on, I had a lot of help with understanding homeschool philosophy and curriculum design and choices and how do you set up your homeschool to be successful. And so that was a big aspect of us choosing to homeschool. But then also when you added military life, it just makes the most sense for our family. We do have 4 kiddos. They are 11, 10, 8, and about to be 6. Had to think about that. We just had a round of birthdays. So about to be 6. They're all fairly compressed together, but that gives us such an opportunity for little friendships with each other. And in our community, our friend group, tends to span from a year or so older than my oldest to a year or so younger than my youngest, and everything in between, which is just great for our little community.
Okay, I think you might be the first military family on the podcast. I don't think anyone from season 1 was a military family. We live in Maryland, right outside of DC, so we know military families who homeschool, but not have any on the podcast yet. So this should be fun. Definitely so interested in any military life that impacts your homeschooling, because I'm sure you know plenty, I'm sure, other military families, but I'm sure there are some out there who are considering homeschooling. So I want to hear about that. But before we go there, I am so intrigued by, like, we would have homeschooled because my husband was homeschooled and his family, of course you think this, he's your husband. Like, they did a great job, right? So what did you learn from them? You touched on, like, you learned like XYZ, but like, can you give us some more details of, like, what were the lessons they taught you? Like, what did they, through either your husband or I don't know if it was his mom or dad, whoever did the homeschooling, or his siblings, like, what are some big things that stood out to you when you were preparing to homeschool and talking to them and maybe even planning with them, or like getting into it with them? Because there's so many first generation homeschoolers out there that your husband and your kids kind of being a second generation homeschool. I'm just so curious to know, like, what was passed down to you, because I personally, like, I didn't have anyone to pass anything down to me about homeschooling. So I'm just intrigued by that. Let's start there.
So the biggest thing that my in-laws helped with, especially early on, was the theory behind our homeschooling. What is the point? And then the phrase that they say over and over again is play the video back. So if you go to where you want to see your children end up, how do you get them there? And then you play the video backwards and make sure that those steps get taken. So, for example, I have one kiddo who wants to be a librarian. And so we are in the process now. He's 11, so he's a little young to volunteer by himself, but we are in the process of getting him signed up on post to be able to volunteer at the MWR library on base. So we would go, the others would sit and do their schoolwork, and he would be able to get a feel for what being a librarian is like. That way he can experience it. He can kind of dip his toe in the water and see, okay, is this what I want to do? And then we're able to structure his education based off of his end goal and ensure that he is able to get to that point, which is what my in-laws did for their kiddos. They did a great job of helping each individual child. And their kids are really different personality-wise, but they did a great job of individualizing for each of the kids to ensure that they got the education that they needed. So with their kids, they have 2 boys and a girl, and they have my husband, who is a veterinarian, they have a doctor of physical therapy, and they have a nurse. And they did all of that pre-internet, which is crazy to me, but they went through and helped guide each child in the direction that they wanted to go based off of their interests. So my husband was volunteering in veterinary clinics to get experience before he had finished homeschooling so that then he could be fully prepared for what that was going to be like and understand it ahead of his commitment to then go through undergrad for a biomedical sciences degree to then go into veterinary school. So the big thing that I learned from my in-laws, especially early on, is to be intentional with my homeschooling. Figure out your what, figure out your why, and figure out your how. Then take the steps to get there. So for our family, that looks like being very intentional about our time, our schedule, and our discipline. So, and when I use the term discipline, I mean what we say yes to, what we say no to, not behavioral discipline. So we are very, very structured, I'll use that term, in terms of our day and in terms of our activities and the things that we participate in and don't participate in, because that helps us to treat school with the seriousness that we want our children to participate in. We want them to take their education seriously. And so I treat homeschooling as my full-time job. It is my quote unquote 9 to 5 full-time job. So I block out those hours. I don't do additional things during those hours. The summer is a bit of an exception. We do take a lighter course load during the summer. We don't necessarily, like right now, my kids are doing some review work. We don't do a full course load, but we don't take the summers off, and that's intentional.
Okay, so I am so here for your energy. I know you're probably like, what are you talking about, Erica? I'm just talking how I normally talk. Like, I can so tell that, like, this is who you are. But, like, it's honestly, maybe it's because of who I see as homeschooling on social media and even maybe my friends. Like, even you just saying the discipline, the seriousness, this is my full-time job. I don't do anything else during these hours. Like, I am so here for this because it is that important. Like, this is your child's education. This is not a joke. This is not play, although yes, play and have fun while you're learning. Cool, which I want to get there in a minute. But like, you just like lit something in me with your last voice note. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm loving the play the video back. It's actually, and I know you have an education background too, but in the schools that I worked, we would call it backwards planning. Like, what is your end goal? You start there, which you're starting with your why. You're starting with what are we trying to accomplish and what time frame, and then you literally map that backwards from like, okay, so then how are you going to get there? If in 10 years you want to be a librarian, then like, where do you want to be in 9 years or 5 years, like working it back, and then what steps do you need to take to get to each of those milestones along the way? So like, genius, so good. And you're making me already be like, okay, Erica, be more intentional. My son, he's only 6, but like, he is like super serious about being an engineer. And of course, he's 6. That may change or maybe not. He might be the person that like at a young age determined what he wanted to be and like actually went and did that. That was not, I guess that kind of was me. I wanted to be a teacher. So anyways, but I feel like I had a lot of bumps along the road. But I say that to say, like, let me lock in a little bit more. And like, I needed this, Morgan. Like, I totally needed those voice notes. I'm about to save those to my personal drive to like go back to when I get a little relaxed. Cause like, you can see all these things online that's like, homeschooling is so fun and play. And like, your children, let them learn what they want to like, but you're doing that and you're like, this is a serious matter. So I'm so excited. So that being said, what did it look like when your kids were young? Cause like, that's where my gut went. Well, like, oh, he's only 6, he was only 5. And I have a 2-year-old who like, all he wants to do is just run all over, like he's not ready to sit down and learn, although he's learning a lot and he is surprising me by the things he knows. So me is ready. But what did it look like when your kids were young? What did this like seriousness look like? maybe it was more like we're still playing, but it's like protecting your time and your hours. Maybe that's what it was. So I feel like that's going to be a quick question. My next follow-up question, I have so many questions for you. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what order to go in. But let's go in the order of like, what did you do before homeschooling? And like, tell me more about your background, because you told me about your husband and told me about your kids. But I would love to know a little bit more about you before jumping any further into anything else.
Yes. So I graduated from undergrad in, goodness, let's see, 2010. Goodness, it's a long time ago. Anyway, and then I did grad school. I taught at private schools during that time, and I did some subbing as well while I was in graduate school. And my husband and I got married right after I finished up summer school in, goodness, 2013. And we've been Army life ever since. And I had my first kiddo in 2014. So there wasn't a ton of time where I wasn't either subbing or tutoring, one or the other, because I knew when we got married, we were stationed at Fort Hood, and I knew we were going to be PCSing pretty quick. PCSing means move for any non-military people. I knew we would be moving pretty quickly. And so I didn't spend that time trying to look for a settled teaching job. Instead, I just kind of filled in here and there as I could so that I would be ready when we had our first PCS. I'm also a bit of a planner. I don't know if that has come through yet, but I'm a fairly structured person, and having to move is a super stressful thing for me. So I spend a good amount of time preparing our home, having inventories and pictures of all of our stuff so that when the military movers either lose something or break something, then I can say, oh no, here is the video or picture of it and what it looked like beforehand. Pro tip for any military homeschoolers who are listening to your podcast: if you name your homeschool and you write that on your boxes, whatever your homeschool name is, ours is Farr Athenaeum, you put that on your homeschool boxes, those get treated incredibly differently than if it says homeschool materials. I can't explain why that is, but we have had more success with our stuff making it to the intended destination when we have our school name on it instead of just craft supplies or homeschool materials or whatever. We've had a lot more success with that. So name your stuff and put it on your boxes because they treat it better. In terms of background, so once my kiddos were born, I was a stay-at-home mom, right? We had 4 kids in 5 years while moving all over the country. So I was inundated. I was completely swamped, and motherhood seemed to just kind of swallow me up, partly because I didn't have a full understanding of myself as a person. I wasn't diagnosed with autism until much later as an adult. And so I had to play kind of catch up to learn how to mother well with things like overstimulation and I'm in the middle of a task, little infant, why are you trying to disrupt me from doing my task, right? And it was a real challenge for me to learn how to mother well while still honoring the thing that my brain needs in order to be successful, which is part of why we have all the structures and systems in place that we do. So when my kiddos were little, I'll be totally honest with you, I struggled when they were younger. It's a lot better now that they're a little bit older, but I had a very hard time because babies don't care about your beautiful color-coded schedule, right? They do not care, especially if there's more than one of them and they like take turns crying. They don't care about your schedule. And that was super hard for my brain of just like, okay, guys, this is not the time for, whatever it is. This is the time for napping. Why are you not all sleeping? And I would love to say that I was totally cool about that all the time. I was not. I am a super we don't do the routine, we do a schedule. And children were great for helping me learn that it's okay to let go of the schedule a little bit and everybody will be fine and you'll fix it the next day. So that was a fun learning experience for us all. As far as school, when the kids were real little, I think mainly to the year, of COVID, at that time period, I had a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, an almost 3-year-old, and a newborn during the COVID pandemic in November of 2020. And we were not stationed at a military installation. We had PCSed to Philadelphia for my husband to do some continuing education and training. And in that time, we had only been there about 5 months. when everything shut down. And so everyone kind of went insular into their little, bubbles and circles and whatnot. And we were kind of the odd men out because we hadn't been there long enough in order to really establish those close-knit friends. So that time period was really, really hard because I had two who were doing kindergarten, one who was doing preschool, and an infant, and absolutely zero help. And at that time period, my husband was doing continuing education at UPenn, and he was a resident, and he was gone all the time, all the time. So it was me and the four littles, and that was it. And so that was when I started really leaning into my strengths of organization and discipline instead of trying to be what I saw so often, especially on social media, where, oh, the mom's laid back, the jokes about, oh, we got up at 9 o'clock, we put on our PJs, we started our school around 11. That's not us. It does not work for us. It does not work for my kids. It does not work for me. We are not successful that way. We get to the end of the day, everybody's grouchy, everybody's fighting at each other. We didn't finish our schoolwork. So for us, what worked better was a solid schedule and staying on that solid, committing to that. And then I had to be the one to reinforce it and to reset it when it got off. And that was the most loving and caring thing I could do for my kids because it made me a better parent with the way that my brain works. If I knew what was coming next, if there was a solid plan. And so that meant I had to make the choice to give up some of the free time things. If I had downtime, I wasn't going to spend it, scrolling my phone or watching a show on Netflix or something. Instead, I needed to spend that time meal planning so that I was prepared for when we went to the grocery store and I wasn't overwhelmed and frustrated. The same thing with like schoolwork. So with the structure, what I mean by that is we don't follow a routine. I think I said that previously. We follow a schedule, and we do that on purpose because it lets my kids know what's coming next, and it lets me know what's coming next, which means all of us are going to be more successful. So an example of that is our day is full of what we call rotations. We have a morning rotation, we have a music rotation, and these are intentional blocks where I have set the kids up to work relatively independently, and I move back and forth between them as they rotate from one thing to another. So our morning rotations, my kids are up at 6:30. I'm usually up about an hour before that, sometimes an hour and a half, depending on if I have grad school stuff to work on or not. And we start at 6:30 with our morning rotations. So in our rotation block in the morning, we have a 15-minute walk or run on the treadmill. It depends on the kiddo. I have one who loves to run and I have one who would rather walk, but they get to listen to music while they walk on the treadmill. One of the rotations is getting to play either Adventure Academy or ABC Mouse, depending on the kiddo's age, and then practice your piano. And then the last one is our unit readings. We do a unit study each month based off of something in the month. This month we did Women Veteran because Women's Veterans Day was in the middle of June. So we follow along with that with our unit studies. So they'll do a reading of a book on that. So I'm available to help them with anything that they may need, but they rotate through it relatively independently. And that starts off kind of our day with we're not immediately jumping into breakfast. Everybody who prefers a more less interaction with their siblings gets a little bit less of that. But those that are morning people and are up first thing, they are ready to go. And that's usually the one who starts on the treadmill. So anyway, that's our morning rotation. Then our music rotation, each one of my kiddos plays the piano, the trumpet, or the piano, the drums, and then they each pick an instrument. So I have one who plays the trumpet, one who plays the violin, and one who plays the flute. And then my littlest has not yet picked her individual instrument. We typically start that about 6 or 7, depending on the kiddo's maturity. So she's got a little bit more time to decide what her instrument will be. But our music rotation is that they do 15 minutes practicing piano, 15 minutes practicing drums, 15 minutes doing music theory, a workbook, and then 15 minutes doing their individual instrument. And they just rotate through the station. And that allows everybody every day to spend time on each of those goals that we have for them. These little mini routines that happen at the same time every day allows them to know that it's coming. So there's no fighting on it because you know it's going to happen. There's no surprises with it. And it's just an understood reality of our homeschool. We did super structure even back then. So things like we use rotations. I would have one kiddo sitting with me who I was working with on, basic letter recognition or counting, something really, really simple. But, they don't know it until they know it. So you have to be super patient during that time period. You can't expect them to come out of the gate knowing what you know. So I would have one kiddo sit with me at the table. I would have one kiddo, we were all in the same room, but I would have one kiddo on the floor in a corner, and they would be typically either doing pattern blocks or counting bears. And then I had one kiddo who loved to just mix all those together, because why not? And then I had another kiddo sitting on the floor doing a writing activity. So we always had a dry erase board, a little lap board, and it was only used during school time. That's it. So we didn't use it any other time, and that kept it interesting and fun. And so we could typically get a solid 15 to 20 minutes out of getting to use the dry erase markers and the board every day if we kept it only for that time period. And so they would just rotate between those to get through our schoolwork. And that was how we did it, honestly. I would love to say that I was one of those mothers who was like, oh yes, we are going to do an art project every day, or bake every day, or you're going to learn to do handicrafts every day, right? Like, I would love to say that. That's not true. We flat out did not have the margin for it. Now that they're older, sure. I have one kiddo. He's 10. He absolutely loves to cross stitch. It is one of his favorite things. And so almost every day you will find him cross stitching something, whatever project he's working on currently, either that or needle felting, wool felting. He loves doing that. But when they were little, I just flat did not have margin for it, and that's okay. And it's okay for parents to say, you know what, this doesn't hit our goals right now, and this doesn't feed us or feed our family, so we're not going to do that thing right now. And that may be things like, a good example of that is sports. I am not prioritizing that for my kiddos. It is just not high up on my list of things that are either going to help them get into the school that they want to get to, or scholarships that they want. It's just not realistic. So if there is an MWR league that they can, military league that they can play in, great, we'll do that. But we're not going to do travel sports. We're not going to bend over backwards in order to be at this person's practice on this day and this person's game on that. We're not doing that. It's just not reasonable for us. And so instead, we're really focusing on music, because there are a ton of music scholarships out there, and there will continue to be. So we want to encourage them in that, and that's a lot more realistic than your kid getting a full ride, on an athletic scholarship. So there's that. We don't prioritize the things that aren't realistic for our family. So one of my things is we don't commit to evening activities at all. If we decide to do it, it would be for a very short time, with an understanding it is from this week to this week, and then we're finished with whatever it is. Because I prioritize rest for my kids and getting a full night's sleep. So I mentioned previously that they're up at 6:30. They are also in bed by 7:30 and lights out at 7:45. And that is what we have chosen for our family, because that's what works for us. And the reason that we do that is because I want them to be able to regulate their emotions as best as they are able to developmentally. And you're not able to do that if you're exhausted, right? If you are constantly underslept, you're just not able to do it. So we really prioritize getting that full night's sleep, solid nutrition, eating real foods, fruits, vegetables. Snacks are great, but let's make sure that we are fueling our bodies well, so that our mind has the nutrition that it needs to be able to function. And the same is true with sleep. Like, let's make sure that your sleep hygiene is correct.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for your transparency with it was hard when my kids were young and figuring out who you were going to be as mom, and then a homeschooling mom also. So definitely appreciate that, because motherhood is challenging at times, and then adding homeschooling could be more challenging. And so I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate you sharing the rotations that you have and the structure and what that looks like day to day. So, so good. And I'm curious to know, what does that structure look like now for a full day? What does a typical day look like, start to finish? Because I think you mentioned the 2 rotations.
the morning rotation with treadmill, and then you mentioned the music rotations, learning instruments. But then what does the rest of the day look like between then and the bedtime? So would love to know that. And then also would love to know, what is it like being a military family in homeschooling?
So our morning rotation, right now we're in summer rotation, so it's a little bit lighter than normal. So we get up early. My kids are ready for rotations at 6:30 and they go from 6:30 to 7:30. They have 15-minute rotations. There's four blocks they go through. And then breakfast is at 8. So from 7:30 to 8 they shower, brush teeth, make their beds, clean up, and then at 8 we serve breakfast. And by 8:45 breakfast is done and they have typically started their morning chores. Each kid is assigned a zone. So like my littlest is assigned the living room because she straightens the pillows on the couch and she makes sure that there's no toys out, and she can do sweeping. She can't do the mop, but she can sweep because our living room is hardwood floors. And so each kid is assigned their zone, they handle their zone, clean everything up, and then by 8:30, 8:45, they are typically by 8:45 they're typically on their outside time. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that's just playing outside. So they go in the backyard and they play and they get their wiggles out before school. On Tuesday and Thursday, that looks a little different. I take them to the track on post, and on our military installation, we live on post, so the track is just up the road, and we go to the track, and they have a little MP3 music listener. It's not connected to the internet, but you can connect it to Spotify, and then it doesn't have a screen, it doesn't have anything like that, so all they can hear or watch or whatever, you can't watch anything, but all you can see is, or all you can access is the music that I preload on it for them. And so they each have their little music listener and they put it on and they get to choose whether they walk or they run the track. But we're there typically for about 30 minutes, 45 sometimes if the track is busy, and they do their comfortable speed on the track, which depends on the kiddo. I have two that like to run the whole time and two that alternate between running and walking. And that's our chance to just, you get to listen to the music you like, and everybody gets their own space, and you get to go at your pace, and it's just a good time for everybody. So that gets us to the end of outside time, which is usually done by about 9:45. And in the summer, that means we do our summer school lesson, which is just what each kiddo has struggled in the previous year. They spend the summer working on it. And so I have one who's working on English language arts. I have one who's working on math. And then I have my littlest two are both working on their reading skills just to make sure they're really solid before we start up at the full school time again in the fall. So they do that. They also, I just signed them up for Mia Academy because I want them to get a little bit of practice with online test taking and online school. So we're trying it this summer to see. I haven't decided if I like it or not yet. It definitely won't be our full curriculum, but I do like it for supplemental. So they do that as well. And typically this is all finished by 11:30, and we have lunch and quiet time from usually 11:45 until 12:45. So they finish their lunch and then they are free to go to an area in the house and have quiet time. They don't have to they don't have to lay down. They can read a book, they can do a puzzle. Any of that is fine as long as they are quiet. So that's lunch and quiet time. That's typically over by like 1 o'clock. And when that's finished, we move into either free play on most days, or if like we have music lessons on Thursdays and we have speech therapy on Wednesdays. So those 2 days we don't do free play, but the other days it's free play. And then our music rotation is at 2 o'clock every day. And so we go from 2 to 3 every single day, practicing their music in the rotations we talked about previously. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then once music rotations are done, they are cleared for free play. So they can spend the rest of the day playing until dinner time. And that looks different for each kiddo. I have one who's obsessed with Legos. I have one who is in he's reading through all of the D&D handbooks. And so that is how he is spending his time. And then I have one who is really into snap circuits right now. Like it is the thing. So I have one who's doing that. And then my littlest, she's a wild card. She plays a little bit of everything all the time. And then dinner is every night at 5:30, and we do it that way on purpose so that we are done with dinner, everything cleaned up by 6:30, because when my husband travels, when he's TDY with the military, we have a rule that he calls at 6:30 our time wherever he is. So if he's on the other side of the world, he calls at 6:30 our time. And we've done that since my kiddos were little bitty. That way there's always consistency even when he is gone. And then past dinner and calling dad time, if dad's home, we do family time. And sometimes that means we may play a game. We're really into, oh, what is that called? Splendor right now. I don't know if you played it. It's a board game. It is so much fun. My kids are really into that. And we've been playing Settlers of Catan. We just introduced the Seafarers version, and they really like that. Sometimes we'll play Mario on the Nintendo Switch. We have it up on the wall, and we play it like the old school Mario. Yeah, so that's our evening time, is just spending time together as a family, except for Friday nights where we do pizza and a movie. So we order pizza, and that's when they get to watch a movie for the week. And then lights are out by 7:45. So that is kind of our schedule and our rhythm. As for military life, we partly chose to homeschool because of military life. With my husband's schedule, we never know when he'll be off, when he won't, when he has to travel. We have very little control over that. We also have absolutely no control over where we live. You go wherever the military assigns you, and you do your best to make a life there. So homeschooling allows us to pick up our schooling as we need to. So a great example of this is when we PCS to Fort Belvoir last year. We PCS'd with permanent change of station. We moved here. We left Texas May 31st and hit the road driving up to Virginia. We got to Virginia, I believe, June 3rd, maybe June 4th. And when we got here, there was no housing available. So we had to be in a hotel, temporary lodging, until a house became available on post, which is not uncommon. But what we chose to do is go ahead and kick into our school year while we were waiting in the hotel. So instead of being frustrated by it, we went and said, okay, this is going to be our school time, and we're going to go ahead when we don't have our household goods, when we don't have a house, we're going to do our schoolwork while we're in the hotel. That way we are ready when the time comes for us to get either the house or the household goods or both. That way they get as much done as possible, and then they're free to play the rest of the time, which works really well for us. Another thing that we do is we do school year round, and we do that on purpose so that we can take time off when my husband has time off. So there's really no sense in us taking the summer off because he doesn't have the summer off. So we just school straight through. The same thing for like Christmas break. If he doesn't have leave during that time, then we just school straight through until like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and maybe the day after sometimes. And then we just keep schooling straight through. And that way, when he does have time off, we can take those days off comfortably. So that is something that makes it a little bit different. Also, with moving in the military, you do have to think about the fact that that means every 2 years you are reinventing your homeschool dynamic. So if you have a co-op that you love and you're a civilian, you're not moving, you get to be in that co-op until you decide not to. In military life, that's not the case. If you love your co-op, that's beautiful, but you may not have a co-op at the next duty station. So you have to learn to be really flexible if you're going to homeschool in the military.
Okay, thank you for sharing all that and about the military. Thank you for, doing this and sacrificing as a military family. And yeah, I mean, I know that homeschooling gives a level of consistency that they wouldn't have if they went to public school and moved every 2 years, right? But to your point, there's still flexibility and inconsistency that comes up even though you do homeschool. So that is just something that I appreciate you for and your family for too. So in terms of your day, super clear. I appreciate you walking through that. I know that there's someone who's like, I'm trying this exact schedule because this sounds like my family. And I just needed, sadly, like people, and I say sadly because like I am like this sometimes too. And I think we all have been at some point in in times have a feeling where you kind of need permission, giving air quotes. It's not permission, but it's I needed an example. I knew what I was trying to get to, but I didn't know how. So thank you for that. And you mentioned Mia Academy. One of my good friends used Mia Academy this past year for her full curriculum, and over the summer she's actually testing out IXL as a supplement too. And so just wanted to throw out IXL as another. She's loving IXL, so that's why every time someone mentions Mia Academy, I think, oh, I wonder about IXL, because that's what she is using too. But as a online assessment, online lesson supplement support type thing. So something to consider if you're looking for something else, if you end up deciding that Mia Academy isn't it for you guys. Okay, so you mentioned your planner, and also with Mia Academy got me thinking too, what curriculum are you using? Are you creating all your lessons from scratch? Are you using curriculum? What curriculum are you using? And then what does planning look like for you? So are you planning every week? Are you planning every month? What does planning look like? And connected to that, how are you staying organized with all of homeschooling? It might be organized in terms of planning, yes, and just any other organizational systems, tools, whatever you're doing to stay organized with your homeschool, even home life, even personal, whatever you feel helps you to be the best homeschooler you can be. I would love to hear. So curriculum and planning / organization.
I do want to speak to the needing permission thing. The most freeing thing for me in my homeschooling was to repeat to myself over and over again to school the children that I have, not an idealized version on social media, not something from a book from someone else's kids, but to homeschool for my children. And the realities of my children are that we are a neurodiverse household and we're living a military life. So we need to do the things that help us to be successful in military life. And for us, that means a lot of structure. That may not work for another family, and that's totally okay. And even within the military community, you will find ultra structured people and not structured people. And neither one is canon, neither one is law. Taking care of your mental health and your kids' mental health means putting boundaries in the places that are important and means something to you and your family. So for us, that's things like scheduling. It just really matters to our family. We all do better with it. And so I have a lot of systems in place in order to help my kids learn to schedule, because I don't want them to be so used to mom scheduling that they don't learn how to budget their own time. So we have a whole lot of systems in place to help them work through their day without having to come to me and say, Mom, what do I do next? What's the next step? What's my next subject? What's whatever. So anyway, I'll send you, I don't know that I can necessarily do it over a voice note. So I may have to send you a video and you can do with that what you will. But I have a whole bunch of systems in place just to help them stay on top of things and know what's coming next, and to train them in that independence, because I don't want them to be so reliant on me for their education that then when they go to do a dual credit class, or, they go into college or whatever, they aren't able to transition out from under mom. I want them to be able to think independently, to plan independently. And then again, for my two that are ADHD, I'm helping them with executive functioning. Yes, curriculum. So I could talk curriculum literally all day long. It is one of my favorite topics. I started out using the boxed curriculum. I chose it because I needed open and go. I had 4 kids, 5 and under. My husband was in residency and we were active duty, and it was during COVID and the world was just crazy. So my very first year we used Sunlight and I enjoyed it. It was fine, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. So that was 2018, I guess. 2019, we started with BJU and we did their complete kit for preschool, the pre-K, and kindergarten. And then after that, I switched into selecting the curriculum based off of what each individual kiddo need and where they were struggling or where they were really succeeding at. So now what we are using this year, we're using the IEW for writing, which I'm super excited about. We are doing Saxon for math. We've done Saxon since 2020, I guess. Yeah, 2020. And it is marvelous. I very much enjoy Saxon. So do my kids. I have, let's see, we're doing, oh goodness, I should have just gone downstairs and looked at my shelf. We are doing, Little School of Smiths is what we're using for social studies this year because we are going to use it. They have this wonderful curriculum for the American Girl series. So we are going to use that as our baseline for literature. We're going to bring in other books to go with it. My oldest is going to pair some really exciting chapter books with the time period in history that we're talking about with the American Girls. And then the same thing for geography. We're going to learn about the region for where each American Girl book is set. And obviously literature because we are, reading the books out loud together, which we typically do over like tea time setting. So we'll do a plate of snacks, usually like carrots and hummus, or we just started doing the, what are those called? Celery with peanut butter on it and raisins on top. And my kids think that's hilarious. Anyway, so they snack and I read the book out loud to them. So that's what we're doing with that. For science, I'm using Sabbath and Mood, and I am obsessed with their curriculum. It's very user-friendly. I really appreciate the book list that they provide. Some of the books can be hard to find. They may be out of print. So like if you're searching for them on Amazon, you may not find them immediately. I had better luck with the online Goodwill and the thriftbooks.com. So anyway, yeah, I think I covered. Oh, we're using Handwriting Without Tears. We're also using the Keyboarding Without Tears. I love that program. It is fantastic. Yeah, so I think that's all. I don't know that I missed any curriculum, but if I did, let me know and I'll fill you in. I did forget a curriculum. So unit studies. We are big on unit studies. I do a unit study for all the major holidays, lots of minor holidays, social observances, cultural observances, because I want my kids to experience a lot of different things. And being in a military community, we can find all kinds of events during the month for different observances that we might not get to experience otherwise. And if we're going to go and participate in those things, then I want them to have an understanding of what it is that we're going to do. So we've done, when we were in Pennsylvania, there was an incredible group of a Polish community. And so we did a little unit study on the Polish community and how they got there and their history. And it was a lot of fun, which led to me starting to write up these unit studies so that I had them for the next year, or I could share them with other people who wanted to use them as well. So now I've put all that together and I created a business for it. It's called Dog Eared Press. And I am using our curriculum, our little unit studies to help kind of broaden their horizons. So like right now, it's the middle of July. So we have been reading 4th of July books for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And we're going to go ahead and keep reading those books. Some of them are a little bit longer, like the History Smasher books. The Revolutionary War book for that is really cute. The kids really enjoyed that one. But it is a little bit longer. And so like my younger 2 readers, my 5 and 7-year-old, aren't quite at the point of being able to finish that whole book, in a week. So we are taking that book through the whole month, but then going through and telling the 4th of July story from different experiences. So from the perspective of revolutionary fighter, from the perspective of a woman like Mary Catherine, whose name was on the Declaration of Independence, going through and tackling each one of those kind of one at a time, so that they get the broader idea of what the Revolutionary War looked like for the whole group of people, not just the ones we typically think of, like, founding fathers kind of thing. So anyway, our unit studies, we go through, we did one for Women's Veterans Day that the kids really enjoyed. And we did one for Canine Veterans Day in March. Obviously, we tend heavily towards military and veteran events and holidays and awareness days, just because of the culture of military life. But we also, last year, we did a series on Disability Awareness Month for the month of July. And we read the book, Out of My Mind. It's very, very good. There's 3 books altogether, but the first one is the one that we read for July. And it was marvelous. So anyway, we do the unit study thing pretty in depth, and it gives us a chance to explore things we might not have done otherwise. And we really have a lot of fun with it.
Okay, this is also good. And you are the second person in the last couple of days who mentioned the IW, I think it's called, writing. And I've seen it and I know people love it. So I'm excited to get there with my son. He's 7, so I don't know if we're there yet, but I think I will definitely look into it once we get into a little more in-depth writing. But love all this, especially the unit studies. Have follow-up questions of like, two follow-up questions. What does planning look for you with all the different curriculum, different kids, as well as unit studies? Like, how do you plan a unit study? I know there's people who want to do unit studies but are just not sure where to start. So what does that look like? And then your business, you have a business too on top of homeschooling and all the other things. So how do you balance, being a business owner and homeschooling and everything else, all the other titles and things you have going on?
Yeah, so I love IEW. I think it's marvelous. We have really, really enjoyed it the last, I guess, 2 years, but it is fantastic. Another curriculum that I really like is Brave Writer. We aren't using it this year, but I really do enjoy it. It's by Julie Bogart. It's wonderful. Yes, so as far as planning, I am a very structured planner. I personally, as not homeschool mom, outside of homeschool mom, I like to be very, very busy. I like to have a lot of things on my plate. I find I operate better and I perform better when there are deadlines and expectations. I am involved in several different things. I have 2 businesses, the Dog-Eared Press, which is where I share the mini units that I write for my own homeschool. So as I have done a mini unit with the kids and we've learned about whatever it is from Canine Veterans Day to we did a money mini unit, which was really fun. We had a lot of fun with that one. As I write them, I put them up either on Teacher Pay Teachers or Shopify, and then they're just there. And that's a lot of fun. I enjoy writing them. My kids enjoy doing them. And that way other parents are like, hey, I want to do something, for Canine Veterans Day in March. Well, there's not a ton of material out there on it, even though it's an incredible story and kids should learn about it. So anyway, that's a whole other thing. I could talk about that forever. So yeah, that's business number 1. And then business number 2 is Canine Advancement Group. So my husband is a veterinarian in the Army, but outside of that, he is a sports medicine veterinarian. So he works with working dogs to make sure that they are strong and fit so they are able to do their job. And he works more on the preventative side than on like the rehab side. So he works with things like teaching dogs to squat and to plank in order to build up their musculature to help keep them safe. And so what we did was take all of that training that he got and turn it into a business so that we can help search and rescue dogs. We can help police dogs. We can help even some sport dogs to a certain extent and help them to be able to get the most amount out of their dog in whatever capacity it is, because we want these dogs to be healthy and to be able to enjoy the jobs that they do. But the best way to do that is to prevent them from getting injured in the first place. So yeah, those are our 2 businesses. I'm also in graduate school right now. I am getting a master's degree in education. And so this summer I'm taking 4 classes, which is a lot, but I did it during the summer on purpose because we're not doing as much homeschooling as we will during the fall. During the fall, I'll probably drop down to just 2 classes and stick with that until the next summer, unless I, get a wild hair or something. But that's very unlikely. I will probably stick with just 2. And then outside of my own education and our 2 businesses, I work for the Military Working Dog Heritage Museum. I'm their social media coordinator, and then I work for their writing team as well, helping to interview people who have worked with military working dogs and helping to document their history so that it is preserved. So much of it was in danger of being lost, and the museum does a really great job of helping to ensure that those stories get told. So that's a pretty fantastic thing. And then I also work with the National Service Animal Monument, helping to get a memorial, a monument built for the service animals that have served in our country. So regardless of whether that's military or law enforcement or even personal service animals, guide dogs, that kind of thing, getting that monument built. So yes, because of all of those things, in order to be able to participate in all of those things outside of homeschooling, I have to be very disciplined myself, and I have to help my kids to be very disciplined as well. There's 2 reasons for that. I want my kids to see me constantly learning and growing. I want them to learn that pursuing knowledge and continuing to read and develop doesn't stop when you graduate high school or college or, if you go on to graduate school, it doesn't stop. There's always more to learn, and there's always ways to go about that. Now, there are seasons where I was not this busy outside of our home. At one point, my kids were 5 and under. So 4 kids, 5 and under during the pandemic. During that time, I did not do all of this outside stuff. I was completely inundated with just teaching my first 2 to read, and my third to be able to hold a pencil, and then the baby to just, exist. And during that season, I did not have the capacity for any more than that, and that is totally okay and appropriate. But now that I am out of the little baby stage and my kids are a little bit older and they have some more independence, I have more freedom to do those other things. But in order to ensure that our homeschool time, that my kids are getting 100% of me, I have to be incredibly strict about how I handle my time. So if you were to call me between the hours of 8 and noon, any given day of the week during the actual normal school year, I would not answer. Like the phone would just go to voicemail. I would hear it, I'd check the voicemail later and get back to you, with the intention of ensuring that my children get 100% of my attention. I don't want them to ever feel like, oh, mom was too busy or didn't help or was on her phone or was distracted, whatever that may be. I want to give them 100%. So for that 4-hour block of time, I'm not answering emails, I'm not returning calls, I'm not doing anything, because I am giving them 100% of my ability. So that's a normal thing there. Outside of that, it's not super popular, but going to bed on time and waking up early. I have found that I do better work if I am more disciplined in my schedule. So if I am consistently staying up late, whether that's on social media or watching a movie or reading a book or whatever it is, I'm dragging the next day, I'm grouchy, I'm less likely to engage well with my kids, which means they may struggle relationally as well. And that just can't happen. So being really disciplined about, I need to be in bed, going to sleep by 9:30, and then I need to be up bare minimum by 5. That's just my personal preference. It's a reality for the way that my brain works, that just works better for me, which makes me a better parent for my kids. Otherwise, I'm grouchy, I'm dragging, and I just do better if I'm up before them and kind of gotten myself regulated, and then they wake up and, we go about our day. Beyond that, I do have time blocks where there are non-negotiables for my personal schedule. So things like after my kids go to bed and I have the evening, on Monday nights, I'm working on museum things. On Tuesday nights, I'm working on the service animal monument things. On Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm working on my schoolwork. And then Saturday mornings, my husband makes waffles with the kids and then they play outside. So that's their morning routine. And during that time, that gives me about 5 hours from the time I wake up until they're done with playing outside, where I am only working on my schoolwork. Now, obviously, with military life, there are times where that changes, where something crazy happens. He goes TDY, which is like a short assignment somewhere, and my plan has to pivot. That does happen. It's just a reality of military life. But my kids are super flexible with it, and they've been really gracious while I'm doing my schoolwork to either play or engage. Or our thing right now is kinetic sand. They are loving doing kinetic sand while I am doing schoolwork. That is one of their great joys. I detest kinetic sand. I find it everywhere, but they love it so much, and so it's a great fit. Anyway, yes, so being super structured with my time is crucial, which leads back to the planning. With our homeschool, I am an Excel girl. I love Excel. I think it's marvelous. Spreadsheets kind of rule my life. I have a spreadsheet for everything, including like my kids' transcripts. I have all of the academic work they've ever done laid out in transcript or in Excel, because that just makes sense to me. That's how I track what programs we've done, what curriculum we've done, what extracurriculars we've done. So when I get ready to build out a plan for the school year, I will put in all our non-negotiables. So the things that cannot move. That's things like, one of my kiddos is in speech therapy. Because of moving around all the time, getting in with a speech therapist is really difficult. So now that we have one, we are not moving it. We are not canceling it. We are keeping that appointment. That way we can ensure that my kiddo gets the services that they need. In order to do that, that means we move stuff around that assignment. We also have, this year, we're starting a homeschool band. It's a new thing. We haven't done it before, but my kids really wanted to try, and my boys are just old enough. So one day a week, we'll be doing that. So that will be a non-movable block. And on Fridays, we have a homeschool basketball league that we will be participating in. And so that will be a non-movable. Outside of that, all the rest of the stuff that we do, whether it's our book work or their, typing without tears or the Hoffman Academy piano lessons, whatever it is, all of that can be moved around. And so I put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I just start copy and paste, moving things back and forth until the schedule makes sense for us. The thing that I find most helpful is to do a draft and then give it to my kids and say, hey, let's take a look at this and let's see, does this feel like it will be a helpful thing for you, or do we need to make some adjustments? I have one kiddo who has a little bit of difficulty with executive function. And so in order to help that kiddo be successful, we plan out his time very, very carefully. So things like, it's best if he does his math first thing in the morning, and then immediately after math, we do writing, because that's just, we need to get the hard thing out of the way first. And then he loves science and he loves STEM. And so those two we put towards later in the day, closer to noon, because by that time he's kind of over it. He's over schoolwork at that point, but he still has his favorite subjects left. And then my older kiddo, he doesn't care what order he does schoolwork in. He'll just do it, which is great. But I have to help him remember that it's not a race, and we are not aiming for perfection in everything. It's okay to get one wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. So that's kind of a fun little experiment there, is seeing how each kiddo thinks differently, operates differently, and then how do you differentiate your lesson, your schedule, your time, your energy for each kid and what they need. All that to say, when it comes to planning, I use my spreadsheets, and I have been very careful about making sure that I'm not overcommitted to the way that the spreadsheet is. So we may get halfway into the year and realize, you know what? It's not working for us to have science at first thing in the morning. It's not working for us to, have to do the experiment, clean it up, and then try and get back into schoolwork. Instead, we're just going to go ahead and pivot and move it to the afternoon. That way, if we're done with our academics and we're ready to do the experiment portion and everybody's fried at the end, it's okay. We can leave the stuff out and it's not a big deal, versus if we had it in the morning when we would have to clean it up in order to have somewhere to do our next academic portion.
Okay, this is also good, and I love, love, love how structured you are. I also love that you involve your kids in the process too. All of this that you've shared is like so motivational and inspirational to me. I am really excited to re-listen to our conversation and apply it to my own homeschool. So I'm so grateful. We've talked about a lot of great things. You've shared so much valuable information, and just I appreciate it. So 2 things and then we'll close out. The first one is, what's bringing you joy right now? It can be anything like sitting outside watching the sunrise every day, or it could be a resource that you're using. It could be something your kids are experiencing, anything. And then what's your final piece of advice you would give to a homeschooling family? Thanks so much.
So things that are bringing me joy right now, I am currently taking a vacation with my kids and my sister and my sister-in-law. We took a road trip I'm up in Fort Belvoir. My sister flew in to DC, and we met my sister-in-law in Virginia Beach, and who flew in there. And we have spent the last 5 days. We went to Jamestown and did all of the historical stuff there. And then we went to the Virginia Aquarium in Norfolk. And now we are at the beach for a couple of days. And we purposefully blocked out this time to just get to spend time with them. And that's been really, really awesome. So yeah, that's the joy right now, is just getting to spend some time with family this summer, which is nice, because with military moves, we don't often get to do that. So it's nice to get to sneak that in. And then my piece of advice for homeschool families is, well, I have 2 things. So the first one is homeschool the kids that you have, not the kids that somebody else has or what people are posting online, because oftentimes what's being shown is someone's highlight reel. It's not actually what's going on behind the scenes. It's dressed up to look as best as possible, right? And our days don't look like that constantly every day. So homeschool the kids that you have. So if you have a kiddo I have one who, after about every 5 math problems, she goes and jumps on a little mini trampoline and then comes back and does 5 more. And that's what works for her little brain. And that's wonderful. Let's do that, because that's the kid that I have, and that's what she needs. So homeschool the kids that you have is number 1. And then number two is don't forget who you are as a person. It is very, very easy to get so wrapped up in being homeschool mom that you forget that this is a temporary duty assignment. This is something that you will do for a maximum of 12 years per child. Outside of that, you will have an identity before and after. So if you are into, I don't know, crocheting or whatever it is, take the time to pour into that hobby. So for me, that's working dogs, right? I am a homeschool mom full time, but outside of that, I am also a working dog enthusiast and I study working dogs pretty significantly. So I pour my time into the Military Working Dog Heritage Museum to be able to just keep a toe in that world. And it gives me an opportunity to stretch and grow and talk with people about something that isn't homeschooling. So, and this is different in different seasons of life. If you are, trying to homeschool littles, you've got a kindergartner, a first grader, second grader, or younger, or you have multiples in across ages, then this is a little bit different. During that season, you are surviving, and that's okay. But once you've got your foot in the door and you've kind of got a level on things, go do other things, whatever it is you're interested in, learn about it, grow about it, grow around it, because you want your kids to see you having a full and complete life. You want to show them what that looks like. So yeah, that's my advice. Thanks so much for having me.
Love it so much. Thank you for that advice. And final thing, just so that we make sure everybody can find you and follow up with you and follow along with your homeschool journey, can you share where people can find you and then anything you have coming up? I think your episode will be out middle of August or so. So if there's anything around that time that you're planning on posting about or sharing about, please, please, please let everybody know. But thank you so much for everything you've shared.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. So yeah, you can find me across social media 3 different ways. One of them is just my name, Morgan D. Farr, author. And that is just kind of my postings about everyday life and, what I'm doing and adventures that I take my kids on. The other place you can find me is YOUR Dog-Eared Press, which is my homeschool curriculum that I write. I publish unit studies. I am almost done with a major project that I'm super excited to share about, which is our book clubs. I created a whole bunch of monthly thematic book clubs. So if you wanted to create a book club for your homeschool co-op or just in your neighborhood with kiddos, it is open and go and super easy. And I have 2 different levels for it. And hopefully that will be coming out about August 15th. And then lastly, if you're looking to find me, you can find me at Canine Advancement Group. That is the business that I run with my husband. He's a veterinarian, and we put programs together and help working dogs in order to not get injuries so that that can extend their service life, whether that is a guide dog or a SAR dog, search and rescue, or a police canine or a military dog, working dog. The goal is to help them, prevent the injury so that they don't have to recover from it. So anyway, yeah, you can find me any one of those 3 places. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much, Morgan. I have learned so much for you. I can't wait to re-listen to all of these episodes. And I'm also going to be on the lookout for those book clubs. That sounds really, really cool. And I will totally share those. So please let me know when they come out, but I'll keep an eye out as well. Thank you again for sharing everything and being on the podcast. And I'm excited to continue to follow your journey and continue to learn from you and to keep in touch. Okay, thanks. Bye.